working with somebody like Gordon, like what is that? One, how does that even happen? Two, how do you even structure a deal with somebody? And I guess just take us through the whole process there.
So we slid into Gordon's DMs.
Love it. Today's episode, we have one of the sharpest operators from one of my favorite brands, Jason Panzer from Hexclad. Jason actually started off in finance, ex-investment banker, on Wall Street, this and that, and now made his way to the kitchen with Hexclad. Hexclad, if you don't know, you've been living under a rock, the Rolls Royce of pans. Today we talk a little bit about their deal with Gordon Ramsay and how they blew up on D2C. So without further ado, Jason Panzer. I think at the beginning of the season we said we want to have a rock star lineup on season 2. We want to get everybody in the podcast, the studio, and there was somebody that I really, really wanted to come here, and it was Jason Panzer from Hexclad. And I've been DMing him and begging him to get him to fly out here. I was like, I'll pay for his flight. I'll put you up in a hotel. I wanted to get you out here so we can chop it up. But, as everybody knows, Jason is a very, very busy man. However, he did make some time to hop on remotely. So, Jason, appreciate that. For those of you who don't know him, Jason is the president of everyone's favorite pan brand, Hexclad. So, Jason, thank you for coming. And would like to kick it off, just give us, a little bit of your background and let's get into it.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me on. You guys are great. Really glad I connected with you. Follow you guys on Twitter, dropping a lot of good knowledge to the community. And I know you've been trying to get me to come back east, but I love it. I'm from the East Coast. It's just stuff is kind of crazy right now, so not able to. But yeah, thanks for having me on. So I joined Hexclad a little over 3 years ago. My best friend, Cole McCrae, and another great guy, Danny Weiner, started the company. Their initial business idea actually was not cookware. And that's a really cool aspect of the journey, is that you don't always finish where you started. And although they both came from a cookware background, so I'd been advising them on their previous product launch, which happened in 2014, and had been around for quite some time. And then when they pivoted to the cookware, I got sort of more and more involved. And in 2019, they had a really big year, and we were talking about maybe doing a transaction. And then 2020 happened, and the pandemic, and everybody was home cooking. We had a really great business before the pandemic, but there was this really special moment where I think you might know that we sell in Costco. It's our only true retail channel. It's a great relationship, but Costco shut down the road show that we operate in. They shut all the road shows, and so Danny and Cole, in talking with me and everything else, they made the decision to just ramp ad spend. And that's when we were I remember I was up in the Bay Area, and Cole sending me screenshots of Shopify, like, what's going on? And I'm like, guys, we just 5X this business. And that's when, it just made sense for me to join the team. And it's been just like an incredible ride ever since. Rewind, I kind of call myself the e-com grandpa. I turned 52 a couple of days ago, and
happy birthday.
I started my career as an M&A lawyer. I was a deal lawyer at Skadden in New York. I graduated law school in 1997, and I was really lucky. I got a great job at probably the preeminent M&A law firm in the world, and I learned a lot doing those 300 billable hour months, and I worked on some really cool deals with some really smart people, and I learned the private equity side of the business. It was really, in 2000 was the dot-com era, so I was there for that, and I wound up doing a lot of Series A, Series B, papering those deals. So I've seen, big billion-dollar M&A deals, $10, $20 million cap raise deals, and ultimately, when the dot-com era things changed, just like things have changed with D2C now in terms of like the funding environment. It's so similar, by the way. It's like incredibly similar. So in any event, I wound up being a CFO of a fintech company. And I went back to business school. I went to Columbia and got my MBA. And then while working full time, and that was fun. I did the CFA, all that stuff. And then, I was a CFO of a fintech company, which we sold. And I got hired by another fintech company, and we sold that one. And then along the way, I'd met a banker called Ken Marlin, who had a boutique in New York City focusing on fintech and marketing tech. And, it seemed like a nice, it was a fun opportunity. He invited me to join the team sort of as his number two. I became a partner in the COO, and we ran that business together for 11 years. So I was a banker there for 11 years. While my good friend Cole and another amazing guy, Danny, were building Hexclad toward the end. So, it's been a fun time. It's my deal experience, my large corporate experience. Those things I think bring a different perspective to our business. And happy to talk about any of those things with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing that comes to mind when you think Hexclad is the big guy, Gordon Ramsay, right? So I think when brands that are very reliant on paid, I think the next step is like, all right, how do we reach out to influencers and figure that out? And I think you guys have nailed that pretty successfully. Not with just just Gordon, but like even if you're on TikTok, like every single cooking influencer, recipe influencer is almost using a Hexclad. Even if it's not being promoted, it's just everywhere. I definitely want to talk about the macro and then maybe get into the micro, but working with somebody like Gordon, like what is that? One, how does that even happen? Two, how do you even structure a deal with somebody? And I guess just take us through the whole process there.
So we slid into Gordon's DMs.
Love it.
Basically. Timing was great. Timing is everything in life. The harder you work, the luckier you get. We got lucky in some ways in that Gordon apparently didn't have an active cookware deal at the time. I mean, he's so busy. He is prolific. He's always shooting. I never know what country he's in. Goes home to London for the weekend to see his family, and then goes home to the UK, and then goes back out on the road. I don't know how he does it. But it was sort of a special opportunity for both sides, which made it, really interesting in that he didn't have a deal in cookware, and he'd seen our product. And so we noticed that Gordon's account was following ours, and we just reached out. And the next thing you know, Danny was on the phone with Gordon's manager, kind of warmed him up to Hexclad, and then passed it over to me. And then it was about a 9-month process, sort of going back and forth. We really weren't in a hurry because we had a lot going on. Our business was performing really well through the pandemic already, and it was just like, wow, what if we got Gordon on board? That would be pretty cool. And so what also made it, I think, easier for us is we had a good business story. We had a good business already. We've never raised any money at Hexclad other than the founder capital and maybe a loan from a friend here and there at the beginning. But we were able to show their team that this was a valuable asset on day one, as opposed to a lot of these deals with bigger businesses that have raised multiple rounds of financing. And you look at the public D2C comps, all those guys have raised multiple rounds of financing. Very few of them actually IPO'd as bootstrapped companies. And so we were able to be like, look, we're profitable. Like, you're going to start getting paid right away. And plus he liked the product. It started from there, and like you mentioned, Hexclad being all over social, it's a very visual product. You can see that it's ours, which is a nice thing. It's kind of like having good packaging. Our package is our pan, and so you know that it's Hexclad. So people started seeing that. He started seeing that. It was really funny too, because when we finally got on, after 3 or 4 conversations, we got on a Zoom call with Gordon, and he was at his house in Cornwall. It's a beautiful place in southern England. And we're supposed to have a 20-minute Zoom call with Gordon, and we were like, oh, this will be really fun. And we wound up on the Zoom call for like an hour and 20 minutes. And Gordon's like walking around his house with his laptop, showing us, oh, look at this shitty Le Creuset. We can kill it. You can do this and we can do that. And, he was really just the kind of guy he is. He was really energized. And it's gone as well as it possibly can. You hear horror stories about celebrity influencer deals. Again, it started by us having a good business already. We certainly wanted to get Gordon, but our business would have been still pretty good without him. And it's really an authentic partnership because he likes the product and he cooks with it. And so he wants it. He's an investor in the company. So we were just like, we can't, we don't really feel like parting with multiple seven figures in kind of just like a paid endorsement deal. And they didn't want that either. They wanted to do something that they could really be invested in. So it was an equity play for Gordon and team, and it's worked out really well for everyone.
I think one question that comes to mind is if the brand was doing really well, right? What really goes into the decision of saying, okay, well, he's not just going to be kind of like part of the roster, but like he's going to be like almost the face of the brand, because you go to hexclad.com and there's, this insane video of him there. I'd say a lot of the ads have him in there. He's pretty much like Hexclad is synonymous with Gordon Ramsay, right? So like what goes into the decision of saying, all right, this is the guy and we're going to go all in on him versus like having, a roster?
Yeah. Well, look, he's the Michael Jordan of cooking. So when you get the best, it's like, we do have a bunch of other really great chefs. In fact, we're about to announce a really good one in the next week or two. But probably half of our paid ads involve Gordon and half don't. So, I mean, it's hard to ignore, Gordon out there calling us the Rolls Royce of pans. But that's all really evolved. We sort of were like, we just want him on the team and we want to do TV spots with him, and we would definitely want to do paid ads. But he actually shot that Rolls Royce of pans thing on his own. He came up with that. It's actually one of his lines. If you hear it in some of his older TV shows, he'll say like the Rolls Royce of something, but it's really become synonymous with Hexclad. And yeah, we started whitelisting on Gordon's account very early in the relationship, and it just crushed for us. And our two best ads are typically something with Gordon or something with Danny, our co-founder and CEO. Like the first Danny ad made us so many millions of dollars. It's crazy. During the pandemic, he was doing the, kind of just like demoing the product, showing the value props very visually. But yeah, so with respect to Gordon, we just kind of, the relationship continues to evolve and flourish. When, like, for example, our deal was kind of guaranteeing us a number of shoot days and some social posting, but the relationship has evolved into a lot more where Gordon just, wherever he goes, he wants to try to cook on Hexclad because he likes the product and he's an owner. He was on Good Morning America the other day and he brought Hexclad. We're on a bunch of his TV shows, like any TV show that he has the power to get us on. He and the teams on all the TV shows, like at Fox and ITV, they like working with us because they hit us up and we're like, yeah, let's go. I've got a bunch of people texting me over the weekend that, did Hexclad do a deal with Queer Eye? So I don't know if you guys watch that show, but I haven't seen any of these episodes recently because I've been so busy. But like I'm getting texts, Hexclad's on Queer Eye, and all of that started just by getting to know the people in the different media companies, and it's gone well. So we think Hexclad is a great business without Gordon. Gordon makes it better for sure, and we definitely think that Hexclad has its own identity based on the quality of the product. But when you have Michael Jordan, you put him in the game.
One question, I mean, I think it'd be interesting to kind of jump into product for a second, because what you guys have created is obviously a superior product. You found product market fit. But for those who don't know, including me, how competitive is the like homeware, home cooking category, right? Like we all look at supplements or apparel, and once upon a time there you see a home cooking or home cookware brand come up, and it's like, wait, this is like something that is so essential in our daily use, yet you don't see them like dime a dozen. And I'm assuming obviously there's cost barriers, and the barrier to entry is not as easy as like creating a vitamin, right? Or powder. But would love to understand kind of product creation, but also like the category exposure to D2C and what climate looks like in competition wise.
Yeah, well, it's funny. A lot of cookware brands sort of sprung up during the pandemic. People saw the opportunity. We were actually, Danny and Cole, they always wanted to be a D2C brand back in like 2016, where they were really developing the cookware with the original inventor of the Hexclad pattern. And it just so happened that the Costco opportunity came around first. I mean, there were some D2C sales sort of trickling in, but not very strategic, not a very optimized website. It's just one of those things where, throw something up on Shopify and see what happens. And I mean, it worked to an extent, but it's funny because our website was like terrible until 2022, until mid 2022, by the way. And now it's pretty good. We're very proud of the build that we did. But yeah, so the cookware, a lot of cookware brands came up, but it's a big ticket item. We have a very high AOV, so it's a purchase that requires a lot of consideration. It's not an impulse purchase. So it's different than, say, CPG or apparel. It's a different animal. In many ways, it's a lot easier. And in other ways, it's a lot harder. We have 20-pound boxes that we actually, the vast majority of our revenue comes from orders of our 13-piece set. It's a big set. It's 2 20-pound boxes. We're shipping 40 pounds.
I have that
all over the place.
It's crazy.
And they take up
trouble to bring inside.
And they take up a lot of space in the warehouse. They take up a lot of space in a shipping container. And so there's pros and cons to everything. Like the CPG world and the apparel world are different than the cookware world. I think it definitely, by being a higher AOV product, it has allowed us to, I would say, we've suffered less from iOS changes that people talk about all the time. We definitely had, like, I wouldn't call it a speed bump, but in mid 21, we sort of had to figure a few things out. Things got just a little bit harder for everyone, but we were very successful without being very good at e-com and D2C in 2020. We just weren't very good at it, but we got good at it. And having a great product with a high AOV really helped us until we kind of figured it out in Q4 2021. We had a monster, and then it's been going like that ever since. We like the category. There's some really good marketers in the category. It's funny too because people often ask, like private equity firms, people like that, which, I come from that world. So I talk to a lot of those people, and they're kind of like amazed by our results, right? And they're like, well, who are you taking share from? Like, you're looking at it the wrong way.
Yeah.
I mean, we're taking share somewhere, but I'm going to quote Sean Frank from our Operators podcast, like good products create their own TAM. Good products create their own TAM. And so what we've done is increase the TAM, because there are a lot of people, probably like you guys, who would have never thought, oh, I need to go and get like this really cool cookware. There are a lot of people that, they go to Home Goods and buy a pan, or they just go on Amazon and buy like $120 set of cookware because whatever, it's like utilitarian, it's cookware. And we and some of these other players in the market, we have really kind of transformed it. We've increased the size of the market. We've created the TAM, and we build on that, and we get people to feel like they want the best cookware. It's aspirational, it's good, it's cool looking, and I think what you guys do is tough. Like if I had to be, you know, with a CPG brand, or an apparel brand, I give you guys a lot of credit. You're moving lots of units, and you don't have a super high AOV. And so kudos to you guys for what you're building, at Obvi.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate that.
I think before I know we want to kind of get into some of the other stuff like more on the finance end, but just to kind of round out this topic of influencers, right? I want to know what your guys' take on like the micro side, right? For smaller brands, you know, getting a celeb like Gordon is, you know, pretty tough, obviously, right? But what's your for the smaller brands out there, and they're trying to they're looking to get into, you know, influencers and things like that. Do you guys do the micro stuff, or do you feel like it's not as important? Because even when we're seeding, right, we have low cogs. It's easy to ship out, so we can send out thousands of packages without it really affecting us. But for something with high AOV, it's I would imagine it's tough to seed, you know, quite a bit. So what is your take on micro? What can brands really do to get their foot in the door with when it comes to influencer marketing?
Yeah, you know, we've been doing gifting from the beginning. First, it started with our PR agency. Just they might send it to celebs or those kinds of, you know, if Halle Berry was an early one, Ava Longoria, Cameron Diaz, I mean, you know, even Hailey Bieber, who we've done some stuff with now. Someone sent her some cookware, and they just started posting it. So we're big fans of gifting. We're big fans of seeding. We started out with celebs and big influencers and stuff like that. The nice thing is with cooking, if you have a good product, cooking is just like so contentable, right? It's like you just go and cook with it. And so for us, I think it's of course, you're right. Our product costs more. Just from an absolute value perspective, even if your cogs are good. So it's an investment. But I think it was a great investment early on. And then we sort of think about it a little bit, and I learned this a little bit from Sean from Ridge, like a little bit of a CPM arbitrage. You can justify the cost of it that way. It's also like influencer seeding and influencer in general is like a venture capital portfolio. You know, venture firms will invest in 10 companies in their fund, and 7 will be losers, 2 will be okay, and 1 will be a big winner. So for us, we look at it that way. The fact that you said you see Hexclad everywhere on social is because of that. We have a pretty big operation now when it comes to influencer. We have in-house people, we have agency people, we have our PR agency. You know, we probably have 10 people, around 10 people touching influencer in some way. It may not be their full-time job, but 10 people doing it, and you know, getting content in people's hands, and then see what they do with it. Don't ask for much. See what they do with it, and if they do good stuff with it, then figure out how to do more with them.
Do you guys have like very specific guidelines on who you want to send it to, or is it kind of like for us, it's like almost anybody with the following that we're just trying to get product out and see what happens. But you guys, is there like a guideline for you guys, or, you know, similar, just toss it out there and see what happens?
We just, at first it was just toss it out there. But then when we gained a certain level of penetration, it's sort of, okay, are there new demos or new angles that we want to go for to get cookware in people's hands? So I kind of think that we're the cookware of A-list celebrities, big cooking influencers, really good chefs. And so that makes it attractive. It's a good looking piece, you know, it's a good looking object. So people like that. And like right now we want to do more with on the female side. Because what's pretty awesome about our business is that we have a pretty split 50-50 male-female demo, which is kind of hard to do with cookware. Like, you know, back in the day, at least in the home, women were cooking a lot more than men. Different in restaurants, and we have a big commitment internally. Like, we have a mission internally to empower female chefs, because it's like Danny always talks about this. The female is the man is the money maker when it comes to cooking, unless it's in the home. It's the female, and that's changed a lot. There are a lot of men cooking at home, and there are a lot of female amazing chefs, but that female family demo is one that we focused on more, because we've done a pretty good job with the male demo. We've also been looking at things like CrossFit people, different kinds of fitness people, and we're always finding new people in cooking, but we're not out there chasing and wanting to pay big money to cooking influencers. We've been fortunate in that a lot of them like our product, and I mean, we're more than willing to work with people, but we, on the influencer side, I'd say one piece of advice I'd give is, like, no one influencer is going to make or break your business. And so I would be just like, stick to what you think works for you. And if it makes sense to, like, paying for posts, I think is silly. I think it's just, you just get product in people's hands and let them do their thing. And if they create good content, then maybe sign them up for something else, a few grand a month, maybe an affiliate deal, but not big money. Maybe over the long term, we have probably 4 or 5, I would say, 100 to 200K follower people who just do incredible work, and they are real brand ambassadors offline too. The people that are going to kind of go the extra mile for you, and some of these people, they're like obsessed. They're just like us. We talk about being obsessed with building a best-in-class consumer brand. Find those people. It starts by getting to people first, and you never know. You just got to take that venture portfolio approach, but then you will know, right? The cream rises to the top, and those are the people that you figure out a way to do more with.
Love it.
So tons of features are often talked about when it comes to why an app is obviously useful. Besides knowing what it can do for your business, what are the actual fundamental things it helps when it comes to the consumer itself?
So in addition to giving value to the consumers, which is number one, what we want it to do, logistically, the app converts a lot better, right? There's one-click checkout. All of our, buy now, pay laters are compatible, integrate with them. Our subscription platform integrates with them. For loyalty, we use reviews.io, and everything is able to be managed from within the app. So like I said, it's one place to give value, but two, if you're making a purchase, it's the easiest place to do it.
If you want to start building an app today for your business, you can get started with 2 months free with Tapcart. Just make sure you mention Chew on this, so you do get the 2 months free. Get started right away. It takes 7 to 10 days to get your app up and running, and it's fully self-serve from Tapcart. Now, let's get back to the episode. So Jason, I think one of the big pieces that I think would be awesome for at least the audience to leverage on is your critical finance background. And I'm sure one of the biggest value points that you were able to bring when you joined the team was how to look at, let's boil it down, but even the P&L, right? And maybe how to reassess things and look at things. So again, not to talk about your guys' P&L, but maybe just your approach at it, right? What are some of the places that you kind of came in and attack, and what are some recommendations you have where if people are struggling during this time, right? Where do you really look to kind of either turn things around besides what everyone typically says, which is bring your CAC down and get your AOV up, right? Like outside of the marketing lever, yeah. You look at SG&A, or you look at your fulfillment costs. You look at these things. Are there things that you did that were very tactical and different and found hacks around kind of how to reassess the P&L to make it better? And we'd just love to get initial insight there.
Well, the first step is really getting organized. And when you're growing really fast, it's easy to ignore the detail orientation required. And I've seen you guys talk a lot about finance and tweet about it, which is smart. You have to put yourself in a position to, if you need capital or if you need to report to people, people are going to come with a lot of questions, and you need to be ready. That just reminded me of something that was a phrase that we use a lot in investment banking, is time kills all deals. So you have to be ready. You get your financial house in order, understand your, and that doesn't mean you need to get like into the weeds. I see a lot of people on Twitter, talking about contribution margin, which is smart. You should be looking at contribution margin, but you can get super detailed with stuff, and you really don't need to be that detailed. But just things need to be organized to start, so that you can make good decisions. And then we're constantly talking about our gross margin. We're constantly talking about unit economics as we launch new pieces in our line, new products. It's amazing how many companies I see with not very good unit economics. And it may be at the start, your unit economics are not great because you're not making big enough orders, but you at least have to have a path to really solid unit economics. So it's like, start at the top of the P&L, and then work your way down. And this, I came up with this concept I was just looking at comparing our business to other businesses. I just called it GMER because it's gross margin and MER. And your GMER needs to be at least 2 to have a profitable business, and that's your gross margin. So say your gross margin is 70%, and then you divide that by 1 over your MER. So if your MER is 5, that's 20%, and so 70% divided by 20% is something like 3.5. And I just know from experience that you make money. You make good money at 3.5. So if you have 90% gross margins, you can have a lower MER. And so it's pretty simple. It's pretty simplistic, right? I use those 2 measures when I look at another business and say, if that thing is over 2, if that thing is 2 and up, like this business can make money. So start with the P&L. Start with the top of the P&L, right? Start with unit economics, gross margins, and work your way down from there.
As you're even like looking at, especially for you guys, I'm sure inventory ordering is a obviously very cash intensive part of the business. The fact that besides founder capital, you guys haven't raised any money, I'm sure you've maybe leveraged some tools like a revolving debt or maybe inventory financing tools or factoring tools. But any tools that you guys use that felt like really helped kind of accelerate the business? Because it's usually finding tools that work. Like that's what we've done at Obvi a lot. Or you go and dilute a bunch of equity, right? Or you're just so profitable on a first order ratio that you don't need to do too much of anything. So would love to understand kind of if there have been certain things that have helped you guys especially on the inventory front.
Well, all businesses require capital. And I think people forget that when they start a business. They just think, I can just stand up an e-com business. And I'm like, wait a minute, I need money to buy inventory. Of course. It's like all businesses need capital. And I don't know, I just think people just forget that, like at the outset. Of course, when you're growing really fast, then it becomes more difficult because you need to buy a lot of stock. And even us, we are profitable. We've always been profitable. We actually spend into a margin, basically. We're like, here's our minimum profit margin that we're willing to accept, and we're fortunate enough that we can sort of maintain our minimum. But even with us, we have a lot of cash being tied up in inventory because we grew 110% last year. We're like up 100% year to date this year, and that we're tying up a lot of cash in inventory. When you're profitable, then banks are nicer to you, and you can, we have a revolver. If we need it, with a big bank. We had a line before that, we were with a smaller bank. We were able to get a line of credit from our bank because they believed in our business. Even then, I think we've done Wayflyer before at some point because it just worked for us. Obviously, things are changing with the high interest rate environment. It's really tough. I see a lot of businesses between 4 and 12 million in revenue, and they ask me the question. I'm like, it's just hard. Businesses need to be capitalized properly, and if you just think that you're going to stand up a business with no capital, it's never been that way. If you go to Europe and you try to start a company, you're going to have to put tens of thousands of dollars into a bank account before they let you even start a company. So the U.S. Business style is more flexible in that you can start a company basically for like $500, right? You go on Inkfile and you start a business, and then you stand up a Shopify site. And it's like, great. Well, start before you get started. Find the capital you need, and it doesn't have to be from a fund. Make friends, meet people, keep trying, and you'll get there. The Hexclad founders had some of their own money, but they also had helpful people around when they needed it. And everything is about building your network and to find the people that'll be there for you when you need them. But yeah, businesses need capital, guys.
Yeah. And then just segue into kind of like, given that you have the M&A background and again, just an extensive background, which I'm sure is so invaluable, but what is kind of Hexclad's journey 5 years from now or 10 years from now? Is it you guys are looking to make a lot of money and sell this? Is this going to get passed around down to generational wealth, or like how do you guys envision Hexclad's future, and what's the goal?
One of the things I say a lot is build a business that you want to own forever, and the exit will take care of itself. I do think that people who build with the sole purpose of making money on an exit will probably make some bad decisions along the way, because effectively they think that exit is the goal, and will kind of bail you out of bad decisions if you can have them. But the M&A landscape is littered with companies that thought that they would sell one day and they never did. It really is. So, but businesses are valued based on growth rate and profit margin. Back when I was a tech banker, for SaaS businesses, there was this 40% rule, which was the definition of a good SaaS business was one that satisfied the 40% rule. It was your growth rate plus EBITDA margin in percentage terms needed to be at least 40%. So if you're growing 20% and had 20% EBITDA margins, that was pretty good. If you're growing 40%, you could be break even. If you're growing 60%, you could be losing money. I think that's a pretty good rule of thumb for any business, for managing your business. I think it works in retail as well, D2C as well. But I think building a business that you want to own forever, and
I love that line.
And good things will happen. We can talk more about exits and valuation and wherever you guys want to go. I can go all day on that stuff.
Yeah. No, I think one more question on this point was just you're kind of looking at this D2C climate from maybe even a more senior vantage, right? Given your background again, and you're obviously on D2C Twitter, and you're kind of seeing a lot of things unfold. You're talking to a lot of different founders, and then on top of all of that, you get to layer wisdom and years of experience. What's one deathly mistake you see a lot of brand owners or founders or operators make, kind of in maybe whether it's finance or operations, whatever it may be? What's just one thing you're just you look at and you're like, not again, or why are you doing this? Is there something that can be a big call out, which you're seeing from a different vantage?
Well, I think the lesson in what's going on right now with the public comms being terrible for all of these D2C businesses, people were drunk on capital, and we've kind of had a bubble. I mean, really, that's what's happened. with low interest rate environment, with the pandemic, with even in the early days where Facebook CPMs were really low, I don't hear a lot of people talking about making money in drop shipping anymore, right? Like things have changed. So the cream is rising to the top. You fundamentally, you have to have a good product. It's not easy to do. You guys found a product market fit, but it's not easy to do. It took a couple of iterations of Hexclad to get there. And so I think we're now at the point where in order to be successful, you have to be real. You have to be a real business. And I hate to like burst people's bubble, but there was a bubble, and it's burst. Like you've got to have product market fit. You've got to have good unit economics. And then after that, you've got to layer in good performance marketing. All the growth hacks in the world are not going to get you there without the top piece, right? And then when you reach a certain size and scale and your performance marketing is working, and then you invest in your brand. Investing in your brand is actually really important, but you got to get to that spot. And then the last piece of it to me is listening to your customer. You guys have a really good, you guys do that well with your community. Post-purchase surveys, community reviews, it's like the 4 pillars of the e-com success are, product market fit / unit economics, good performance marketing, good brand, and then getting that customer feedback loop and feeding it through the system. Like those 4 things. I think if you're going to start something, that should be your goal. How do we make all 4 of those things work?
That's great.
I love to hear it because it's always something that we've preached, and it doesn't matter the size of the business. Like that has to be the foundation. What do the customers want? How can you listen to that? The reviews, like you said, post-purchase surveys, community. How can you extract that information and tailor what the future of your business looks like? And it's great that, you have these like 9-figure brands all the way down to when you're just starting. Like that is the foundation, and brands really need to leverage that to move forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think I think one other thing that you said is it's super important is like in the environment we are, it's not that like it's this temporary thing or like it's something that could, will change in 2-3 months. It's actually the cause of a bubble bursting. And so now what will be normal is yet to be determined. And so like I think a lot of people are also still just making decisions. At least what I see is like people are making decisions as if, in a few months it should all be good. Like, consumer confidence will be back, rates will go down, and we're just going to go back into the bubble. And I think that piece just needs to I think people need to be a little bit more wide eye on like, hey, if this is the new normal, how do you build here? Instead of hoping that you're just going to stretch enough time to get to that new.
Yeah, it's a bitter pill that people have to swallow. I've been through it in the .com era. I was running a business that had raised $15 million in venture money. Before like everyone now goes to Google or wherever to just like get stock price information, or you get it out of your brokerage account. And back then it was the early days, like AOL was a thing, and there was a lot of money chasing these businesses. And one day the investors just like all changed their mind at once. They were like, where's the profit? Where's the revenue? Where's the profit? We're not just looking for unique users. We need you to have a profitable business model. And that's just what happened here. So I saw it back in 2001. And we were also very fortunate in that when Danny and Cole started the business, they didn't have a bunch of capital, and it had to be profitable from day one. People laughed at them when they said, we want to sell cookware online. Like people are like, that market, you'll never do more than $1 million a month in sales. And so that level of discipline was ingrained in them. And then me being on the team, having lived through the .com era, having lived through the global financial crisis, it's like we made pretty good decisions. We made plenty of bad decisions too, but we made good decisions on that. And I actually think like you're going to see this with AI as well. You're going to have the next 2 years investors chasing AI, and then There will be a lot of failures, and there'll be a few big success. Are you guys playing around with ChatGPT 4 and Bard yet?
Always.
Ash
Like,
loves it.
yeah, I mean, it's such a
It's
hack.
like, it's incredible. We did this. Well, I was at VCon this week, and so I sat on a panel, and one of the guys on the panel was he's just like a total AI nerd, and he did like give us the Hexclad taglines, and we got like 10 taglines. I'm like, this is incredible. Like half of them were really good. This guy was like, Chat GPT 4 and Midjourney, it's going to change your business. Thankfully, I've delegated that to people to learn. I'm not as hands-on as you guys. I think, from a management perspective these days, my philosophy is I focus on the macro, right? Danny focuses on the macro with me. Danny and I really run the company together, just like you two guys. It's really, like, the way you guys work together is great. Danny and I are like exactly the same. And we focus on the macro strategic things, and then we've built a team to execute and deal with the micro stuff. Like this year, we had 4 big objectives. One, we just need to scale our ops, because we've done all of our own fulfillment through like September of last year, and then we grew out of. We have a 50,000 square foot warehouse in LA, and when we took this space in June of 2020, I was like, how are we ever going to fill this up? It's crazy. It's cavernous. It's nuts. Like, this is wild. And that was June of 2020, and basically in June of 2022, 2 years later, we're like, we're going to run out of space. Like, what are we going to do? And then we stood up a 3PL really fast. We found some overflow space. So that was one big strategic objective. Another was becoming a content destination, because cooking is so contentable. It's like, let's not just be transactional. Let's make ourselves a content destination. And we're about in the second inning of that journey right now, but we hired a great head of content who knows how to shoot, knows how to produce really good content. Community was another one. You guys actually gave me some really good inspiration for community. It's funny, we have a community called Cooking with Hexclad that we did not start. We didn't even have a moderator slot in it up until like a couple of months ago. There's 10,000 people in this community just posting pictures of what they cooked on Hexclad. And like, someone will put a question in there and they'll get 100 answers. So I'm like, how do we do that better? How do we use that, but add value to build a community around cooking? So working on that. And then the last one was international. We're in the UK, we're in the EU. We're launching Australia and Japan this year.
Wow.
And it's a lot of work.
It's quite the story.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's just great to hear that the Avi community could help in some shape or form, No, it's phenomenal. I know we have a few questions from Twitter.
Yes.
Maybe we'll do like a quick rapid fire and see where we go from there.
All right, we'll see how I do when you put me on the spot.
Given that we're all knee deep in Twitter, D2C Twitter, it made sense for us to grab a few questions from Twitter. We had a lot of requests of people who wanted to know some stuff from you, Jason. So one of them was the retail strategy. And, you kind of talked about how Costco is your kind of sole partner right now, and maybe you guys don't have too many other ones going there. But I'm sure, one, that's part of the strategy, but two, what's the extended strategy on how you look at additional rollout of Williams and Sonoma, or like, some of the other places? Can you maybe touch on retail and what it means to you guys?
Yeah, for sure. And again, our business is different than a lot of CPG businesses or apparel businesses for a number of reasons. But I look at retail, it's a pretty simple decision. Look at your MER, look at your marketing efficiency and figure out how much you're giving up there, and credit that to the retailer because they're doing the marketing for you. And if the economics make sense, then you go. We make decisions on that basis. Do the economics work? There are a lot of D2C brands that are talking about retail now because it's become harder to acquire customers profitably online. And that doesn't mean it's going to be easier when you get to retail. So, but, if you have a 2 mer and you can do that profitably, then you can give 50%, you can have a 50% take rate with a retailer and you can do it. For us, we're able to acquire customers very efficiently right now. We're very fortunate for all the reasons I mentioned earlier. And so we're just not really interested in giving away 40 to 60% to the retailer. But our business model, our business economics are set up that way. We've got interest from retail. We have a lot of interest from retail. And maybe at some point we will do it, because at the end of the day, if you can do it profitably, it may dilute your overall profit margin, but your absolute cash profit will be higher. So, but you have to just compare that to your online, what's your marketing efficiency online, because it's sort of the retailer's doing the marketing for you. Now, look, there's some brand effect and brand lift to being in retail too. I think it's that visibility makes sense. Someone will see you, they may not buy it in the store. They may go think about it later and go on your site and buy. So that's an additional bonus that doesn't really show up in the P&L. But I still think that this, looking at it from what's your CAC or what's your MER, what is your marketing efficiency, and compare that to the take rate of the retailer. And that's how you make your decision. But saying, like blindly going into retail and saying, well, I'm having a hard time D2C acquiring customers, so I've got to go retail. You might have a hard time there too if your economics aren't right.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Makes complete sense.
I like how you guys, think about like MER and things like that. Because there's a few, I guess, metrics that marketers have been trying to figure out whether they should lean into certain things, right? So whether it's like CAC to AOV or even like CAC to LTV, right? So one of the questions that came from Twitter was, do you guys think about your customer acquisition cost with LTV in mind, or is it AOV in mind?
Yeah, we're more AOV focused because we have a high AOV. And also, when you buy a big set of cookware, you're not going to buy another big set of cookware for a very long time. You might not buy another product from us, and we are pretty good at building the LTV, but our business requires us to be focused on AOV, be focused on AOV to CAC, really. And that's a very important metric to me. If you're a business that has very strong repeat purchasing patterns, like Obvi, like apparel, then you can look at it differently. You should think about AOV, but think about LTV, but you can also go bankrupt before you get to the LTV, right? So that's the thing. You got to be like, I think True Classic Tees, there's a lot of buzz around that brand. They've done a great job. Admire them very much. They're just different from us, right? They can acquire customers effectively at break even if they want to, because they are expecting to sell more. We look at it differently. We have to look at it differently. So we look at more at AOV.
Awesome.
Want to do Chew?
Yeah. So, Jason, what we like to do at the end of every episode is we like to give the viewers something to chew on, right? So one takeaway, it could be marketing, finance related. What's one thing you want users to take away from this and apply to their business today?
Well, I'll make it more of a personal anecdote. I have these for our pod. I decided to come up with these things called the Panzerisms, and it sounded kind of fun, and we're just trying to spice it up a little bit. And I think I've done 3 or 4 of them. And there's another one that I'll get. I don't know what I'm gonna get to, but I will soon. It's like, do 10 favors for every one you ask for, and do the 10 before you even ask. Everything all the good things that have happened to me in my business career have been from having great personal relationships where they've come back around. Even Hexclad, the co-founder of Hexclad, Cole, and we were friends since 1995. You know, my CIO at Hexclad is a good old friend of mine. My chief of staff was someone who was a friend of a friend who I got introduced to. And it's just like building those relationships and being giving with your time for free is incredibly powerful for building your network. And I mean, everyone is out there trying to build their own personal brand. It's funny, I was on Twitter for a very long time and no one gave a shit about me until Hexclad started taking off. I mean, I remember I was on Twitter because I just love Twitter, and I had like 200 followers, but what I've done is made time for people. I flew to the GeekX thing home from Indianapolis because I made a commitment to Nick to be there. I was on the road all week. I flew from VCon I had like a 6 a.m. flight Indiana time. I'd wake up at 4 a.m. to get there. But I do things like that all the time because it's like paying for an insurance policy. So I would be really, really giving with your time and expect nothing in return. And it will come back to you and be very valuable. So it's more like a life hack and a personal business growth hack than an actual business hack.
Love that. It's great. I love that one.
Chew on that.
Chew on that.